So hello everyone, my name is Atharva Vevare and in this project I am going to explain about customer segmentation using k-means clustering in our programming. So without any further discussion, let's get started. So I have taken the dataset of mall. So first of all, we will import all the dataset and do further steps. I have taken this dataset from Kaggle and this dataset have total 609 entries and 5 variables. So the 5 variables are customer ID, gender, age, annual income, and spending score. After that, we will now display the first 6 rows of our dataset using the head function and use the summary function to output summary of it. So here we go and we get an output of summary. After that, we will take summary of customer data, annual income, and age, and also the spending score. So here we get an output. So after that, we will do an gender visualization. So in this we will create a bar plot and a pie chart to show gender distribution across our customer data. From the above bar plot, we observe that the number of females is higher than the male. Now let us visualize the pie chart and observe the ratio of male and female distribution. So here is the code for pie chart. From the above graph, we conclude that the percentage of female is 56, whereas the percentage of male in the customer dataset is 44%. After that, we will visualize age graph for more depth knowledge. So let us plot the histogram to view distribution plot of the frequency customer ages. So here we can see the customer age plot. After that, we will create a box plot for customer. From the above two visualization, that we conclude that the maximum ages are between 30 and 35. The minimum age of customer is 18, whereas the maximum age is 17. After that, we will analyze an annual income of the customer. So I have already written the codes. Let me run it. So here we get an histogram for customer data of annual income. After that, we will plot a density plot and get a depth knowledge of it. So here is a density plot for annual income. From the above descriptive analysis, we conclude that the minimum annual income of the customer is 15 and the maximum is 137. People earning an average income of 70 have the highest frequency count in our histogram distribution. So after this, we will do the summary for spending score. So here we get an output for summary. So let me create a box plot for it. So it is a box plot for descriptive analysis of spending score. After that, we will create an histogram to also get a depth knowledge of spending score. So here is an histogram. After that, we will do an k-means clustering. So for this, we do it for elbow method, that's intra cluster variation states minimum. So for this, we have to install pure package and I have already installed it. So I will just run it. After that, ISS is equals to function get. ISS means insta cluster sum of squares. So let us run this code and get an output. So we can see in the environment section we get an values of ISS. So let's create an plot to get more depth knowledge of K values and ISS values. So from the above graph we conclude that 4 is the appropriate number of clusters since it seems separating at the bend in the elbow part. So after that, we form a cluster for every sellout methods. For this, we have to install packages cluster, grid extra, and grid. I have already installed these packages, so I will just run it. After that, we will form around 10 clusters to get an appropriate clustering method and desired output for which we are looking for. So I will just run it. So here we get an siloed plot, and we can see the customer segmentation done here. So now we make use of fz and nb cluster function to determine and visualize the optimal number of clusters as follows. To determine the visualize optimal status of clusters, for that we have to include install packages nb cluster and factor extra, but I have already installed it, so I will just run it. So here we can see we get an optimal number of clusters graph. So as it is bent from K6, we will go with K6 and run one more time, and we get an output. After that, we will visualize the clustering result for the first two principal components. So I have already written the code, and here we get an segment of mall customer using k-means clustering. We will do it for spending score also before we have done it for annual income. Here we get the clusters. So in first diagram we have seen in cluster 6 and 4 the cluster represent the customer data with the medium income salary as well as the medium annual spend of salary. In cluster 1 the cluster 1 represent the customer data having high annual income as well as high annual spend. In cluster 3 the cluster denotes the customer data with low annual income as well as low yearly spend of income. In cluster 2, the cluster 2 denotes a high annual income and low yearly spend. And in cluster 5, the cluster 5 represents a low annual income but its high yearly expenditure. So in second graph, we have seen that cluster 4 and 1 have similarity. These two clusters consist of customer with medium PCA 1 and medium PCA 2, whereas in cluster 6 it have high PCA 2 and low PCA 1, whereas in cluster 5 PCA A1 have medium and a low PCA2 score. In cluster 3 there is comprise of cluster with high PCA income and PCA2 also, and in cluster 2 the comprise of customer with high PCA2 and a medium spend of income. So we will finally visualize the k mean values. So here it is. So from this project we have learned that we went through the customer segmentation model. We developed this using class of machine learning known as unsupervised learning, and specially we made use of clustering algorithm called k-means clustering. We analyze and visualize the data, then proceeded to implement our algorithm. Hope you enjoyed this customer segmentation project of R. Thank you.